just want to share with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. That B'siyat D'Shmaya, we're still in the week of the Yurtzeit of the Baba Sali. So anytime that you're connected to the Baba Sali, you have to say words about the Baba Sali. Many stories about the Baba Sali. Rabbi Noach has a story about the Baba Sali. Going to meet the Baba Sali, mamish. There's one interesting story that they say over, very fascinating and telling, is that many of the Chassidim, the Tzaddikim, before the Baba Sali was known to the whole world as being as wondrous as a Baal Moifis, as a man of miracles, and a tzaddik, mefursim mamish. So they sent people to see him in Paris. He was living in Paris with his daughter and son-in-law, the Busus, whom live in Har Nof. I've been zeicha to go and eat by them. Very special, just to be shaykh to people who are the daughter and son-in-law who had the Baba Sali living in their house. He would go into his room and be there for days on end, just like doing things. They say we didn't try to open the door or anything. We just.
So you get the best stories.
So, except the ones that got zapped and never told the story. I guess that's the risk you take. So, when they sent some of the tzaddikim, so they said you have to see three things. There's three things that you have to see, and if the tzaddik has these three things, Ichimai writes about this, if he has these three things, then you know he's the real thing. The first thing, you have to see the way that he does Natilas Yadayim. Natilas Yadayim is always a sign that somebody was careful with the tahara, with the purity of their hands. It means that they're really the real thing. The tzaddik can point out that the hands can go higher than any other part of your body. So the hands themselves in the spiritual worlds represent very high level of consciousness. That's why the holy righteous ones were always careful with where their hands are. And that's why a person who's called a chaver is someone who protects his hands. Because at any given moment, if you ask somebody, so where are your hands right now? And this guy's like, he's like picking his nose, the other one's like, touching his armpit, the other one's like touching his shoe. The hands are yadayim askanias, hands like go places without us knowing them. So the fact that the Baba Sali, if he's going to be careful with his hands, we can be sure that he is from that world of the tzaddik. That was number one, and sure enough, of course, he was, to the most unbelievable levels. He was also the Baba Sali, as is known, connected to the Tosher Rebbe. In Shemayim, they were connected, and they met each other in the heavenly spheres. And the Tosher Rebbe also was famous that he was careful with his hands, careful with the Tilas Yadayim. It says that he had the secret. Only one person has the secret every generation of the Tilas Yadayim, and the Tosher Rebbe had it. So anybody who really is holding, they know the Tilas Yadayim. The second thing is they wanted to see whether the Rebbetzin was careful with tznius and B'nai Beisai. Because Eishes Chaver Kachaver, a righteous person, their wife will be like them. So if someone's truly righteous, then it'll show up that the women of the family will be modest. And of course, when they got there, the Rebbetzin was B'tachlis at tznius. And the third thing they wanted to see is what was the Baba Sali's opinion on Rabbi Yoel Satmar? Because there's a Messiah that anybody who wasn't favorable, there's maybe some concern. So when they asked him about Yoel Satmar, he said, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. He said that when he finished the Sefer, he made like a Yom Tov. Mamish, that the Yoel Satmar is the tachlis of Kedusha. And they knew from this that he was, and of course after that, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he was already the Baba Sali Mamish, so people, it was already mefursim. But the tzaddikim in the beginning, the tzaddikim are always trying to find, when they hear about people. I remember being somewhere, I was by Chevra David, and all of a sudden I said, Ichimai. And here's my wife. I said, oh my God. And they were like going somewhere. I just said, is it okay? Like, and we went into like some secret underground passageway. I don't even know where we went. And they were going to find a certain tzaddik that just sits there all day learning Kabbalah. And I could see that Ishimara was like, he literally just walked into this person's house underground. And of course, this Yid was sitting there with his tefillin on, learning. Like as Ichimara walked in, as if like, yeah, like that's what tzaddikim do, just walk in and it's all good. And then he goes, and this Yid had like a little pinkus, a little notebook on his table. He was like, Ichimara just picked it up, was like looking at it. And he's like, Ichimara just looks at him. Without, they never said like, hi there, how are you? It was just, says, what is the side of Purim? It was like a week before Purim. And this Yid, like had like a table stender. And he started saying over like this vort with Rishonim, like more in Nigla. And Richimar is like, they're all listening intently to what he said. And Richimar is like, we don't see that anywhere in the Rishonim. Like, are you chaylik in the Rishonim? He's like, it's a chiddush. Ein chanami, it's a chiddush. And he said, tell me epis abyssal in Pnimius. Give me a vort in like Soid. And this Yid was like, Soid, Soid. And he said a few things to each other. And I was like, this is unbelievable. Like the tzaddikim are literally all the time finding each other, meeting each other, and they communicate on another level. I don't know how long they stayed there. I left to go make sure my wife was okay, because it could have been years went by. They were sitting there. I had no idea. I just remember I said, I got to go. They were still there. So tzaddikim are finding things out, seeing things, and they want to see like the people that are creating the Messiah and Klal Yisrael. The tzaddikim are always going and checking things out and making sure it's all happening in the right way. So you want to be close to tzaddikim. So we're picking up from yesterday. We're talking about tips on how to maximize this time of year. This time of year, Adam, it's so nice to have you with us here. It's such a pleasure. This is a very special time of year. It's not usually a time of year that they talk about in Sunday school. It's nothing that I knew about growing up. It's the time of year where essentially we try to become more pure. And purity means a lot of things, but on a simple level it means that I should invest in my thoughts, in my speech, in my actions, in areas that are going to be good for me. And I mean good for me for the long run. Things that are going to help my soul, which is a long-term project, a long-term investment, as opposed to things that are just going to be immediate pleasures for my body, which might make me feel good now, but will end up being a little bit bitter shortly thereafter. Short-term gratification as opposed to long-term fulfillment. And this is a time of year where we start to define and refine what are those things that fit into category number 1, long-term fulfillment, and the things that fit into category number 2, short-term gratification, that are not so gratifying because they get a little bit bitter. So we spoke about number 1 is staying away from things that cover a relationship with God. That's number 1. We said number 2 is a person has to actually pray to God to help him to know which things he should be investing in, which things would not be the best investment. No, everybody knows if you hang out with a bunch of thieves, you probably are going to start thinking like them and want to go on their heists. So maybe a person has to reevaluate if I should spend time hanging out with thieves. So we also have to pray, Hashem, help me that I should have the energy and the wherewithal to know what are decisions that are going to be healthy decisions in my life and what are decisions that are not going to be healthy decisions in my life. Then we said, which is what we spoke about yesterday, learning Torah. Learning Hashem's Torah. Torah is just, Jewish for Torah, Torah. Torah is Torah. And when a person learns Torah, it doesn't only cleanse the things that he's done that maybe were not to his highest potential, but it enhances the power of the soul within him. That's what Torah does. So that's what we were up to. And one of the things that we spoke about yesterday is also learning Torah with consistency, b'ritzifus. What's ritzifus mean? It's stronger than that though. It means non-stop. It means you get into an experience and you stay in that in a deeply meditative way. Tzimar, that's right. As opposed to, I learn for 2 seconds, bzz, I get a buzz in my pocket. I learn for another 2 seconds, bzz, chazanish, going up and up and up and up. And people who've experienced this, when they actually go into that meditation, like the world and the things that don't really matter start melting away. And we realize that I could start to see the world with clear eyes again. So we mentioned yesterday that it's very, very important to start spending time. Make yourself sacred times of the day that you learn and you shut off the phone, that you shut off all the distractions, that you say, I'm sanctifying this time. I'm making this holy time. Be lidded, leave it in the dorms. Make sure to give yourselves the opportunity to be successful. That's all it is. Okay, any questions so far? We're good to go? Okay. Then we spoke about that when a person learns, he should do it what's called lishma, for the right reasons. What are the right reasons of learning Torah? To get to know the Torah and get close to Hashem. It's as simple as that. We're learning in order to have a relationship with you, Hashem. Okay, that's what we're up to. Ki b'shvil zeh, you see that? Page Kuf Nun Beis. Ki b'shvil zeh Hashem yisborach nosen lanu es ha-Torah. God gave us the Torah to have a relationship with Him. V'haloymid kach hu loymid Torah l'shma. You are learning Torah for the right reasons. Shemishtamish boi l'shem hadavar shebishviloi hi nitna lanu. You're learning the Torah for the reason why it was given to Klal Yisrael at Mount Sinai. The Torah was given to us, and it was given to us with a purpose. You could learn the Torah not for the purpose of what it was given, or you could learn the Torah for the purpose of why it was given. Ulischaber v'lisdabek el haboirei oid v'oid. To connect to the Creator deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. We have to remember there's a Creator. Even the founding fathers of the United States of America knew that. All men are created equally. But you can only speak about equality once you accept the first 3 words. All men are created. All men are created. That is something that is not so spoken about nowadays on university campuses, even though they claim to be the elite thinkers of the generation. Well, why don't we talk about a creator and that man was created? That's very, very important. It's hard to get into the discussions of equality unless we can talk about there being a creator. Because maybe might makes right. Maybe there's not equality. We happen to believe in equality, but we believe the equality comes that all humans are created in the image of God. That's what creates the equality, is that we're made in God's image. Well, you're only made in God's image if there's a creator, if there's a God. Let's talk about that for a little bit. And then from that we'll come into equality. So the Torah that we're learning is to connect us to the Creator. This is the purpose of why we're learning. Not that I should learn and become a big, kanaker in my learning. And become a big somebody, the kanaker. That's your favorite. Be a big, a big old kanaker learner. Oh, wow, look at that guy, that kanaker. You see how we could just take down Tosfos? You see how he just manhandled the Pnei Yeshua? That was unbelievable. What a kanaker. May God bless you. Amen. That's not what we learn. It's a nice thing to know Tosfos. But we learn Tosfos to connect to God. To connect to God. Ela hamatara rak, should underline that word rak, It's very important. Only for that. Only. Not to be a kanaker. A person might become a kanaker, but you're not learning to become a kanaker. V'limid Torah karoi, and proper learning of Torah, lishma, maybe as adam lakir v'selakim, brings a person to tremendous closeness to God. Ki munach b'Torah, inside the Torah was placed koyach lahavi oisanu lechibur im Hashem yisborach, was placed inside the ability to bring us to this connection to God. That's in the Torah. Ulahargashes chibur panimi itoy. Inside the Torah is waiting for us the ability to have a deep feeling connection with the Creator. This needs to be the purpose and the reason why I'm learning. I want to connect to you, Hashem. Besides the fact that you should have intention in the beginning of your learning, not only before you learn, you sit down. Why are we here? Why are we in yeshiva? Why are we learning in a shiur right now? So the answer is to connect to God, plain and simple. To know that there's a creator of the universe that wants a relationship with us, and through the Torah, which is His will, we can connect to Him. So that, okay, here we go, blast off. But even while we're learning, that we could also feel that every one of these words are filled with God's light. So not only in the beginning that we should sit down and say, okay, here we go, blast off, and then forget about God, because we get so involved in the topic. A big thing that Chassidus gave to us is even while you're learning that you feel closeness. And by the way, that doesn't take away from you being in the sugya. Even while you're in the sugya, you have a feeling of closeness to Hashem. You know, I one time heard a very interesting discussion. There's some Chevra that were discussing, by the Chassidim we say, Zok the Heilige Rashi. Zok the Heilige Rashi. Says the Holy Rashi. Zok the Heilige Torah. So one of the Chevra wanted to say, he was daning. Maybe the fact that he said Heilige is a bit of Torah. Because he didn't need the word Heilige to understand the sugya. I don't know what Shitas Rashi is. Once you said Heilige, that word might be a bit of Torah. That was the nidain. So I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that there was such a nidain. The Rosh Yeshiva said that, he grew up with the Chassidim. He said, we all said Heilige. It's not the Heilige Rashi. Because you're not just learning Rashi, you're learning the Heilige Rashi. Rashi's Heilig. Heilig is Yiddish for holy. You're learning holy words, meaning Hashem is inside the sugya also. And that's not a steer to the Nefesh HaChaim that when you're learning the sugya, you should just be thinking about the sugya. Yeah, the sugya is Or Hashem. And that's why the Chassidim had reminders throughout. Not that you left the sugya, but inside the sugya was the Or Elokee. Ubefrat betchilas limudai yeshnam kama milim v'yachsar aleim kama pa'amim. You should have a few words, certainly before you start learning, and go over them a few times. V'toich kadei am yirosa yishtad lahargish es ha'or ha'otzim shetamen b'toichem. To say a few words, to say a few concepts, right before you learn. Next page. V'al yidei she'yehudi loymid b'toich kavana lidabik el Hashem yisborach. And when you learn to have that connection, limudai oila l'rotzen lifnei Hashem. Your learning is going to go to a very favorable place with Hashem. V'nishbal av shefa chodesh shel kirvus elakim litoiv v'zoichel is aneg el Hashem. A person is going to get to a very, very close level of feeling Hashem while he's learning. Not that I'm feeling Hashem and then I learn and I forget about Hashem, but while I'm learning, and not just that it feels good to be smart and know what to say and have good arguments. No, while I'm learning Hashem's Torah, that I feel that it's Hashem's Torah. I feel the connection to God while I'm learning those very words. This is the Torah Mashiach B'siyat D'Shmaya. that we're mamish learning Hashem's Torah to connect to Hashem right now, in this very moment, to bring that ore down into the world. So as a practical takeaway, we said a nice story, the Havchanas of the Baba Sali, of seeing where tzaddikim are looking to understand if somebody is really going in the way of the Mesiras Hashem. Then we said 3 of the ways that we can connect to purity during these times. And purity means that we connect to things that are going to be lighting up our souls and giving us long-term satisfaction and fulfillment and not just short-term gratification. And we said those 3 things. Number 1 was to run away from anything that is going to be a direct contradiction to the long-term fulfillment of my soul. Number 2, a person has to pray. He has to connect to Hashem in that world of prayer. Number 3, we said to learn Torah with hasmada and devekis, specifically learning for a stretch of time without distraction. And we add another element today, which is to bring Hashem into the learning, that Hashem is with us in the learning. The Siyat Dishmai, we're going to talk more tomorrow about speaking to Hashem in your own words, and then we're going to talk about some of the Shemus. He's going to give us a shtickle Kabbalah here. And Bezrat Hashem, we're hoping that we're going to have a new Rebbe, and I'm going to come to the side, and Mashiach will come and deliver Shiur here. Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow. Amen. Amen.